Hi, it's Penny Black and Jill Foster here for some PB&J holiday inspiration. And in today's video, we'll be making this fun card here featuring a technique for an embossed snowy background, and also working with our new creative die set, Snowman Smile. And I'll be using the sentiments from our new Joyful Wishes transparent set, and also using the snowflakes from that cute set, the North Pole set. And here's a list of all the supplies used in creating this card, but I wanted to let you know I will put this full supply list up at the very end of the video. You'll see it right up here on screen. You can pause if you need to jot down any notes, and it'll have everything that I'm using today. So to start with, I'm working on Nina Solar White Smooth Cardstock, and I just rubbed an anti-static bag over that because I'm going to be doing some embossing. And I'm using these three really great snowflake stamps. These are from our 3x4-inch transparent set called the North Pole, and that has a matching die set that really goes with that North Pole and cute little signs. But I love these little snowflakes, so I decided to use them here. I put all three onto my acrylic block just so I can stamp the background a little bit faster, and I'm stamping them using Versamark ink. And I know you can't see much yet, but I'm going to sprinkle on my embossing powder. And I am using Wendy Vecchi's embossing powder. This is by Reinker, and I love the colors. It coordinates with the archival inks, but today I'm just using the embossing powders. And this is the color of violet. And I really had fun with these cards, and I'll show you two more color variations at the very end of the video, just using some interesting colors for the snowflakes. And I love using lots of different colors, and sometimes at Christmas I know we can kind of feel limited to reds and greens, and I think this is a great place to really incorporate some unique color schemes. Is up in the sky. If you're stamping snowflakes, make them whatever color you want them to be. Everyone will know that it's Christmassy because it's snowflakes and a snowman. Or if you're making winter cards or thank you cards, this is also a fun variation on the traditional Christmas holiday colors. So I did my whole background, and I went ahead and heat set that, and those colors by Wendy Vecchi of embossing powder get just even prettier when you heat set them. I feel like they have a really great mix of brightness to them without looking neon or fluorescent. I just really love anything that she makes. Her colors are wonderful. So on this background, I'm using Distress inks, and I'm starting with Shaded Lilac. And I'm just basically putting this color down as an undercoat just for some brightness and a touch of blue. I'm going to put some other colors on top, but I do feel like this does add just a nice look to the overall color once it's done. Next, I'm using Seedless Preserves, and by putting a darker color over those embossed snowflakes, now you can see that they just really start to pop, and I think it just looks magical to have the embossing a lighter color than the background. So I'm just putting down a pretty heavy layer of that Seedless Preserves. And up in that corner you can see a little bit of red, and I was just testing that before I had the camera on, and I'll show you that on the other side here in just a minute. I'm using an ink blending tool and a foam pad, and with all of that embossing and those detailed snowflakes on the back, you really don't have to worry if your sponging isn't perfectly smooth. And it's such a dark layer that by the end there's so much ink built up that those sponging marks will not show. Now, Distress inks are slightly transparent, so you can layer multiple colors like I'm doing here to achieve a unique background and also some variation that gives the entire scene some added depth. So around these upper edges now, I'm adding just a touch of Fired Brick Distress ink. And again, I think that just makes that embossing, that beautiful violet color, pop even more. Now, I'm not worried at the bottom because I will be covering that up, and then I just rubbed a dry paper towel over the top of that to remove any off of the ink off the embossing. Now, these are our die cuts called Tall Trees, and I'm putting some of that Shaded Lilac Distress ink on them, and I also hand trimmed a couple of snowbanks, so I just cut them with my scissors, and I put that Shaded Lilac on there as well. To color the trunks of the trees, I'm using a Vintage Photo Distress marker. Picked that primarily just because I like the color. So I just needed something that was easy to apply down onto those trunks. So I'm just coloring that right on. Now I'm going to work with our creative die set Snowman Smile, and I'm using a Gathered Twigs Distress Ink Reinker, and I'm using it as a watercolor. So I just put a little bit on my acrylic block. Right now I'm painting onto that snowman die cut piece with water, and then adding just a little touch of that Gathered Twigs Distress Ink Reinker along one side of that snowman. And what this will do is when I layer those die cut pieces together, it'll give it some added dimension. But I love that by using this Distress Reinker, it just is very subtle. And it's easier to me to get a nice smooth blended edge with the reinker than using the ink blending tool with the foam pads. So if you put your water down first, it makes it easier to add a smooth layer. Now all of the die cut pieces were cut from Canson 140-pound cold press watercolor paper. Now this is the snowman hat, and I'm also using the Gathered Twigs Distress Ink Reinker on here. Here I'm just starting with watering it down and painting it onto the hat. And as I move upwards, I'm going to add a little bit darker color up here at the top. And then also a little bit darker along the left-hand side. And there's no right or wrong. I just wanted to have some variation in the hat so that it wasn't all just one completely dark brown color. This die set is really fun because there are so many different colors you can do on the accessories because it comes with the hat, and then it also comes with a little holly flourish that you can add to the hat or anywhere else on your scene. And so it's fun to just kind of experiment with the different color variations. And I'll show you all of mine at the end of the video. Here I'm using the Dusty Concord Distress Ink Reinker used as a watercolor. I'm just painting that on. And I'm also going to add just a little bit of inking on top of this to darken the color. But I find by starting with the watercolor base, by painting some of this on, it's just easier to add the inks on top. You have a little more control, and it's less ink you're putting on top because you're starting with a tinted or a purple piece already, so you don't have to do quite as much sponging. So I'm just patting that with the shaded lilac, and then I'm also getting a little die cut heart. Something else that's fun with this snowman creative die set is the different ways you can embellish it. So on all of mine, I've just used a little heart on there. So now I'm working in my stamp positioning tool, and I am laying out the entire card. So nothing is adhered down yet. I've just set down the snowflakes, the tall tree die, the snowman. And what's great is you can position your sentiment, then sort of lift it up right where you want it. Keep the sentiment area down, but now take all of these extra pieces off. But you know you'll get your sentiment stamped right where you want it. Then you can go back and adhere those die cut pieces with dimensional adhesive, and everything will fit right onto the card. Now I'm stamping my sentiment using the Potting Soil Archival ink. This is also another Wendy Vecchi color that I love. It's great for sentiments. I use it quite a lot if I don't want a stark black sentiment, and it stamps beautifully with our transparent sets. And this is from our transparent set Joyful Wishes, and on the other two cards that I'll show you, I use that same sentiment set. It has a really great collection of different sentiments. Now this is the back of that snowman face, and I'm just putting a few dots of liquid adhesive, and I trimmed down a little piece of black cardstock. I wanted to make sure that the eyes and the mouth were not showing through to the background, and so I just added some black there to back that and have a little look. Now I've glued down my trees. The snowbank with the sentiment is adhered flat onto the background, and then that other snowbank is popped up on dimensional adhesive. So here the snowman's going to be popped up on the card, and then also the tall trees. The trunks are glued down with liquid adhesive flat, but the top part of the trees have dimensional adhesive on the back. So on the snowman, I just put a little glue where it's going to touch the other snowman part, but then the dimensional adhesive to keep everything level and popped up. So here's a look at the finished card. I added that holly to his hat, some self-adhesive pearls, and also his nose and the heart. And some more color variations. This one uses the Wendy Vecchi Sky Blue embossing powder for the snowflakes. And this one, it uses the Fern Green embossing powder for the snowflakes. So you can see it's just really fun to create some non-traditional colors on those snowman sets. I thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also connect with Penny Black on Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, Instagram, and our website and blog. And I've linked to all of those down in the YouTube description box below. And as promised, here's that complete list of all the supplies used on today's card.